So today we will have your questions and I will try to answer them to the best of my ability. We are in difficult times, dangerous times, troubling times. And, I used to be working in the news media, so I am very aware of what's happening in the world to a much greater extent than those who experience only what you can get on the conventional news channels. And what people are saying is that there's really a lot of dangerous things going on, fragile things going on. And what we need is people who are very stable, steady, wise individuals who can hold a stable situation in the world where there are some people who are in positions of power, but also without realizing that, if you play with fire, you can get burned. So we need to be very good in our meditation. So it's really good that many of you have come onto this show because you want to have stable, steady, peaceful minds and hearts, even though we are in very troubled times, very stressful times, where at every turn, individually and collectively, we are facing more and more challenges, more frequently, more rapidly. And so our time together today will really focus on how we are going to handle all this and how we already handle all this. So those of you who are new, you'll be learning things that you may not have heard about before. And there are many of us who have been studying and practicing Raj Yoga for decades. It means that we have been preparing ourselves for troubled times and making ourselves more and more internally stable, strong, able to have a wide vision of what's happening, not easily getting distressed or panicked or disturbed by things that might happen but are not actually happening. Or there are a lot of stories that are flying around on the social media which are not true. And so we need to know how to handle our ability, or how to develop really our ability to detect what's real, what's not real, and how to manage these things as well. So we are going into a troubled world, looking at the troubled world from an attitude of peace and equanimity. We are meditators, and so we generate this vibration which actually holds the atmosphere. And the atmosphere is the circumstances in which things can take place. So when you fill the atmosphere with vibrations of peace and stability, that also really makes a difference. So let me turn it over to Madhavi and let us see your questions. Thank you so much.
Thank you, Denise. Thank you very, very much. So, yes, here are some of your questions, which I will ask Denise. So, Denise, what is your earliest experience of God? What's your story?
My earliest experience of God, I think it's impossible to say, but I was always aware of the divine, even as a small child. I had a very clear ideas. I used to, even as a small child, challenge the religious authorities if I thought they were out of line, which very often people are out of line, right? They say, I am representing God. And then I say, okay, then in that case, you have to treat people well and be generous, nice, sweet, honorable, respectful. If not, then how will people think that you are representing God? But otherwise, I came in contact with the Brahma Kumaris in 1974, so that's about 50 years ago. And there I was with highest level yogis from the Brahma Kumaris. And so I was able to really study closely with them and have incredible experiences of meditation and so on. So it's been a wonderful journey since that time. Absolutely.
So when you think of God, Denise, what picture comes in your mind?
You know, there's no picture because God is a being without a body. God is higher than a human. So a non-human being is very difficult for a human being to conceptualize. But we have studied a great deal with God, who has presented himself. You can't say really he, she, or it, because it's neither of them. But for practical purposes, we will say he. This is an intelligence, an energy who can communicate with people and who does and who speaks and who enables us to understand what is God and what is the creation and how everything works and what is our part in it. And so God says, you know, I am really in relationship with all the human beings in the world, regardless of their race, culture, religion, etc. And God is a very reciprocal kind of being. So if you turn your attention to God, God will be aware of it and will give you feedback and will be aware of you. It is said, if you love God, you will receive love from God. If you're, you know, talking deeply to God about stuff, you will receive understanding. So all of these things are there. And it goes from the very tangible to the very intangible. It is said that the description of God is bigger than the whole ocean. So, of course, that would take a lot of time to describe, wouldn't it?
Is this conditional? Is this something where you have to take the first step?
There's so many people who say God has unconditional love for everyone, but he says no, it's not like that. This word that I used before, reciprocal, is really very important to understand because, you know, you will take this step of reaching out to God. God will feel, see, and know who you are, who you always ever have been, who you will be, everything about you in a second. Will know your integrity, your honesty, your purity, all of these things, and will respond to you as you are and according to your authenticity, really. And this is why there is a huge variation in different people's experiences of God.
What actually brings you constant joy?
You know, I relate very much to God as the great intelligence, the one who understands all things, who knows the story, who knows the philosophy of karma. Even since I was really, really small child, the one thing I wanted was the third eye. And so everybody, of course, thought I was nuts. And how do you know about third eye, little child? I said, I don't know, but I want it. And and the third eye is, of course, the eye of knowledge, the eye in which you're able to perceive and understand what a soul is, what God is, what the creation is, all the way from the beginning to the end, what this human experience is all about from a spiritual angle, what all the laws of spirituality are. These are the things that are my object of fascination, and the being of God, together with what he talks about, all of this is so amazing that I remain perpetually amazed because there's so many facets to it and can't get bored. And this is what gives me unending joy. Absolutely.
What do you feel has been the most important thing you've done in your life so far, Denise?
I would say it's yet to be done.
Oh, I like that. I love that answer. Have you got any regrets in life? And if you have, how do you deal with them?
Oh, well, there's a wonderful song from Edith Piaf, Non, je ne regrette rien. I have no regrets. Of course, every person goes through hell and does all kinds of stupid things, but, it's all part for the course. It's all part of life. And if you go around regretting, then you can't enjoy, you cannot be present for the present moment, and you cannot create your fortune for the future. So, there's no point in having regrets. You can't turn the clock back and change things. So you have to come to terms with everything and be all right with it and know that you are an okay person, and anybody doesn't like it, that's too bad.
Now, what, in your opinion, are some obstacles to spiritual growth, and how can they be overcome?
Well, you have a number of different obstacles. You have your own karmic accounts. You have your own lack of understanding. You have many things all to do with your traumas, all the messages you get from people who don't understand anything, negative feedback when you don't do negative things. There's tons of obstacles, but, this is a marathon. In terms of spiritual practice. And you need obstacles in order to get strong and to get experience. And if it's just a straight run, you will end up totally lacking in capabilities, capacity, wisdom, experience, compassion. You won't get anything. So obstacles are there to enable you to be really, really real. So they're good, they're necessary, and enjoy them. We get given all sorts of powers and weapons and stuff because there are obstacles, and you need to know how to handle yourself around them.
What, in your opinion, are the most common misconceptions about spirituality?
Oh, well, it's all to do with religion. And religions tell people that they're sinners and they're not okay and they should feel bad about themselves, and guilt and shame and all that stuff. And so I have to spend a lot of time de-shaming, de-guilting people. And I tell them, look, don't feel guilty about things. You either are or not about some crime. If you haven't done a crime, you can't be guilty. So feeling guilty is not a good idea. And please give it up. And then sometimes people think it's all about stopping the mind and going into silence where you hardly exist. So it's not like that. It's very positive, very full of incredible concepts and ideas. It's about developing yourself, understanding yourself, and living with, people who are, you can say, your kind of people, who you resonate with, and you have spiritual relationships. Spirituality is takes you to a place where you can be alone without feeling lonely. You can be on your own without feeling abandoned. You are, sometimes they talk about it as a pyramid or a mountain. So spirituality, you go to the top of the mountain, there's only room for one at the top. Of course, you can't stay at the top very long. You move up and down, up and down. It's very fluid, and it's a wonderful, enjoyable focus to have as the purpose of your life. At least for me, it is like that.
What lasting impact do you know you've made in the world?
I don't know, I have no idea at all. I hope it's good, but I think reality is you do your best, you do what you can. Every soul is given many gifts. So I have a gift of, I can speak a few languages. I don't mind speaking in front of a camera. And so I try to get the ideas out there, and then people pick them up or not, and how they interpret them is how they interpret them. So I really don't think it's possible to assess what kind of impact you've had, but I hope it's good.
Can you share a profound spiritual experience that has impacted your beliefs or worldview, Denise?
Well, of course, I have lots and lots of them, but one that comes to mind, which I've been speaking about to a few people I've been coming in contact with lately, was one experience that I understood. Nobody can kill me. Nobody can corrupt me. Nobody can break my spirit. So just try and see what happens to you.
I think it would be nice if you expand on that a little bit, because many people are struggling with that.
You know what happens? Sometimes people don't like you. If you're outspoken, I'm outspoken. People don't like that. Or if you're successful, people don't like that. So they come after you and they try and destroy you. And they try all sorts of ways, it's the way of the world, right? Some jealousy, some this and that. And you don't allow that to get to you. You have to understand you are an immortal soul. So if anybody tried to kill you, you say, you know what? I'll come and haunt you. So watch it. You have to be able to stand up for yourself. And no one can corrupt me. Well, everybody has a price, they say. But I have very particular standards, ethical standards that I operate by. And there are a lot of people who have come along and thought they could buy me or threaten me or bribe me or something like that. And I, always have to throw them out because this is not what I am. So don't try that one. I cannot be bought. And because if you sell your soul, if you're a soul, you sell your soul for some stupid thing. Why? What do people want? Power. I am already powerful. I don't need power. They want money. I have just quite enough money, so no problem. Don't need that much. They want to be famous. Okay, I'm quite famous enough as far as I'm concerned. They want to be high position. My position is I live in God's heart. That's a pretty good position. So, what can anybody offer me that is better than what I have? Nobody can threaten me. Oh, if you don't do what I want, I'll kick you out. I say, okay, kick me out then. So what? Who cares?
So have you always been so self-confident and you've always had that faith within yourself, or did you have to build it stage by stage? What's your story?
No, I've been like that since I was a child. So, my mother used to say, oh, you should play the game. You should go along with everybody else. And I would say, no, I won't. So what can I say? I don't know. This is how I am.
When you were born, did you belong to a particular, like a religious background or something that maybe your mom followed or your parents or your grandparents, or was there anything like that?
No, not at all. I mean, the family I was born into, my mother was a Catholic, my father was Church of England, and they didn't like Catholics, so she had to change over to this. And I never really thought that the religious authorities had a good understanding about God or religion. So I went my own way always since childhood.
That you feel helped you on your path, so to speak?
It did, because I never felt guilty unnecessarily or shame unnecessarily, or I never thought that anybody could, put one over me or any of this thing. Yeah. So, but I was always, out of the box and on my own, very much on my own, even since child. Yeah. Even in school, I didn't think they understood knowledge very well. So I didn't think the teachers understood too well.
With all the challenges that are happening within sort of families, relationships, and the violence within even families is increasing, trust between people is diminished. Is there anything we can do to stop that happening or to boost them up out of that sort of feeling?
Well, the thing is, a lot of people, they think that spirituality and psychotherapy is the same thing. It's not. But traditionally, the religious organizations and institutions and churches, mosques, synagogues, and whatever have been used to take care of the people with mental health problems or social problems or something like this. And so a lot of people, when they come to learn Raj Yoga, they assume that we will look after all of their problems. But I tell people, look, if you want to do this, you've got to take care of psychological issues first. So if you have some psychological issues, there are lots of things that you can do to take care of it. If you have an addiction problem, go to a 12-step program. If you have a lot of trauma, psychotherapy is helpful. And if you want to develop yourself spiritually without taking care of your psychological issues, you will encounter a lot of difficulties. So it is wise if you would understand these things. And there is so much all over the internet that is available to help people, because almost everybody has tons of psychological problems. And so there's a lot that you can do for yourself with self-help groups. Governments are understanding the need for these things more and more. You know, when you combine your psychological work with some spiritual work, some meditation, some study, you can gradually make yourself into a very robust human being who can handle your traumas and opposition and challenges and so on. Because getting competent, getting robust is really part of, I think, a very important part of spiritual development.
How to be forewarned and forearmed for the benefit of humanity, especially in a world propelled by technology that's not humanity focused?
Well, sometimes it is said to us that you are a spiritual warrior. So a warrior is somebody who expects to be ambushed, and, you know, someone will come shooting at you from the back, from the sides, hardly ever from the front. And so keep yourself, you know, make yourself streetwise and keep yourself aware. Don't be hyper vigilant, but be aware and be grounded. Don't be naive. A lot of people are way too naive, especially the people who like spirituality. They also tend to think that naivety is good, but it's a weakness. So you try to get over that one quickly. Yeah, we live in a world which is in a state of collapse, and all the natural systems are in trouble. This is, we call it climate change, it's climate disturbance. And there's a lot of political upheaval going on. There's financial insecurity. You cannot trust people. You tend to get a lot of disillusionment as you move along. And so what we learn is keep it simple, keep your life simple, don't have too many things, live within your means, and, you know, just have a few people in your life who are people you really know and do trust, and don't try and make it too complicated. And if you develop your inner life and your spiritual life, you don't need all this extras, you know, because they really are distractions, and they can, you know, weaken you, actually.
She says, how do I increase my self-worth, self-value? Because I constantly find myself trying to help negative people, those who believe they are the victims in the world, just to find myself being ridiculed and rejected by them and others.
Well, this is because you haven't done your psychological work. So what you are displaying is quite classic symptoms of psychologically not being quite healthy. So I think you need to take a look at, you know, the characteristics of people who always try and help people who need help, and then they turn around and treat you badly. That's a classic symptom that you are not making good choices because you have some psychological issues. So you can, you know, Google it, look at your symptoms in Google, and it will tell you a few little things about it. If you want to do some psychological work with a therapist or a group or something, not bad idea, because a lot of people have these, you know, character issues or you can say character defects, which are connected with some or another psychological reaction to some or another trauma that you may not be thinking about or aware about or understanding how it's affecting you. But these are classic symptoms.
How do I get over low moods and boredom? Over the last few months, especially since having been made redundant, I feel no motivation in doing anything. Along with all the negative things happening in the world today, everything in life just seems so pointless and hopeless.
Well, you were reading out his question. I was remembering a film, but I couldn't remember its title. But this was a bunch of Englishmen who had been made redundant, and it was some short time after the Second World War. And they got together and they started doing all sorts of really creative things, and they ended up being very self-motivated, fulfilled, satisfied, because they had come together and decided to just take the challenge and do something worthwhile. And I think that also what happens when people are in this kind of situation is see if you can find some voluntary work to do, because if you don't have any work, you don't feel purposeful, and a person needs to feel purpose. And when you do something good for other people, there is an incredible karmic benefit that comes to you and which lifts your mood definitely, and also makes you feel motivated to go even further ahead. Look around, people around you, go to places where people gather, see what's needed, what you can do to contribute, to help. Because if you've been made redundant, you've got time. If you've got time on your hands, then see if you can make it productive in a good way, or give yourself some courses to study and study with some other people, because you need social input, you need to feel purposeful, and you need to feel that your time is being used in a profitable way. That there are many opportunities, and I'm sure you will find something that'll be just right for you.
Yeah, lots of questions coming in, and also there are some on aliens and dinosaurs.
Oh, well, I once went to the Canadian Badlands and saw all the dinosaur skeletons over there. It was a pretty incredible view. So yeah, they were there. But I have this theory, which is nothing to do with anything realistic, but it's my theory that nowadays you can do genetic modification. So if I would be some kind of biologist who could do that, and I would find a few lizards or a Komodo dragon, for example, which you can get in Singapore, and do a little genetic modification, and boom, there's some dinosaurs, just like you get in Jurassic Park. And we know one thing, that they all died on the same day. And we don't know how they all got born. I don't personally think that they were around for that much time, because I don't think they're very practical animals. But that's my theory, and it doesn't have any foundation, but there it is for what it's worth.
Oh, okay. So she's already answered that for you. Do they exist really? And how do they fit into sort of our ancestry?
Yeah, they're nothing to do with our ancestry, but they're there. Definitely, there's a lot of skeletons and whatnot. But the people who believe in evolution have created a narrative about dinosaurs, but I don't believe in evolution, and I created a different narrative. And I've just told you what it is. Now, in terms of aliens, E.T. go home. I think I'm an alien. But I'm human as well.
So Jet is asking, aliens, what is your opinion? Do we originate from aliens? And if not, who are they? Do they really exist?
Well, it has been said in our teachings that if there are any aliens, you won't meet them, because your interaction is with humanity, with God, and with the animals, birds, fishes, and whatnot that comes on this earth. So if there are any aliens and you never meet them, it doesn't really matter whether they're there or not, because you won't meet them. Although everybody's looking for some other species, some aliens, and there's all these stories. But I think that there is so much in all of us, and that we pass through many births and we pass through many changes. I mean, people do get alienated. So if an alienated person is like that, they might be an alien if they're alienated. If you are going to America from somewhere else, they always call you an alien. That's the word for it. So there's lots of aliens in that sense. But otherwise, ETs and things like that. I mean, in a way, you can say we are extraterrestrials because the soul comes to Earth, gets a body from a different dimension. So we are, in that sense, extraterrestrials. We became terrestrials, and then after some time we will leave, and then we'll come back. So, it's quite normal to be a human, but people don't know the whole human story. So they create extra stories which are, imaginary. I think if you know the story as we have heard about it through our studies, it's a really very fascinating and amazing story, which I think is better than the story about how you all just started off as amoebas and turned into dinosaurs and eventually became humans. And humans are, on the whole, not really that great, a large proportion. So I think the best thing is for us to work on ourselves and become really good quality, wise, reasonable, sensible, meaningful, interesting, humorous humans, and take responsibility for our actions and be strong in the face of all sorts of troubles, and keep close to God. God is a very good companion.
When the circumstances and challenges are relentless, as of a pain of an individual who is abusing the justice system and makes you feel unsafe and helpless from all this, living is more painful than dying. That feeling comes. How does one challenge that?
Well, you have to decide, are they abusing you? You can walk out. If they're abusing the justice system will catch up with them.
Even though I have let go of things and people in my life, I still keep on having this inner yearning, which is not people or things. What is this feeling of wanting, and what does it mean?
Well, I think probably that you are looking for love. You can't really get that full satisfaction from people because people are spiritually depleted. You yourself are spiritually depleted, and love is a very powerful spiritual energy. And so if you really do some studying and practicing of meditation and develop a relationship with God, I think that will help you a great deal. And it might also help you to identify what is missing in your life. Also, you need to understand that you have a very strong, large weight of negative karma sitting on your soul, preventing anything from happening. And you need to address that and work through it and lighten up that weight. And also, you probably haven't done quite enough pure karma. So you need to take a look at some pure karma for yourself to do, because you need to create profit. And all of these things, when a person gives importance to these things, your life really starts turning around, because you're doing things to make yourself stronger, and you'll stop doing things that make you weak. Better.
Okay, James, what is the purpose of human life? I know I didn't ask for this birth. Are we not forced, trapped in this eternal cycle of life?
Well, this is a very good question. What is the purpose of human life? The purpose of human life is to be who you are in your essence, to understand who you are. See, at the present time, everybody is depleted, disconnected from themselves, disconnected from purpose, disconnected from everything, and just basically in survival. And you're caught up, I think, in assuming that the way the world is now is the way the world always was and always will be. And at the moment, it's in a state of collapse. And so, obviously, when it's in a state of collapse, it's not particularly attractive or pleasant. And you say, stop the world, I want to get off. And this is normal. But you need to, I think, pull back from the current state of the world and from the current state of yourself and really take a look at something deeper. Have a look and see the answer to this question, what do you want? I find this a really good question. And you have to go through many, many layers of what do you want? Because, of course, obviously, superficially, you want this, that, and the other superficial stuff. Then go deeper and deeper and deeper. And once you have really found out what you want, you will understand your purpose. And you will also take advantage of a challenging world, which is there to oblige you to step up and fulfill your purpose once you've identified it.
With all the wars going on at present, many souls have left the body suddenly and in a state of fear and sorrow. What happens to them? And does their energy have an adverse effect on everyone?
Well, this is absolutely true. There's, the numbers of dead that are quoted in the media have to be multiplied by a factor of 10 or even 100 because they're very, very low figures. And people die in trauma. And there are a lot of people who survive, far, far more survive than who are dead. And they have injuries, life-changing injuries. They have a post-traumatic stress disorder. Pretty much everybody has that. They are in hypervigilance. They are alone. They are in a very, very difficult condition, day and night, day and night. And it is very, very terrible. The people who leave the body in that situation, some of them will take the form of wandering spirits because they can't get a birth, and they will be troubled. They will maybe trouble the people who are their killers. And so the people who are the fighters in the war, they also are very troubled by what they have to do and what they have to see. And it's getting worse, quite a lot worse. And so I think what we have to do for ourselves is really stay very strongly connected to God, the Supreme Being, who is the source of peace, stillness, stability, purity, and stay connected and vibrate, because you can change the atmosphere by doing that. And I think that to work on a subtle level or an atmospheric level is good. You have to understand that it's not your job to sort out this problem. It's much too big for any human being, but it is in the hands of God. So allow it to be in the hands of God, who is the Father of all souls and who understands and feels exactly what's happening to everybody and knows what to do and is doing it. So we have to not try and play God. You can't do that.
What does it mean in spiritual terms to be born again?
But what it means is, okay, you get born physically, you get a mom and a dad and a brothers and sisters and a home and an environment, but that's physical. But then a time comes when you really want to understand yourself spiritually, and you go through a rebirth in the sense of you understand your identity, you get your sense of identity in spiritual terms, you make a relationship with the spiritual Supreme Being, the Supreme Soul God, and you start to have different type of spiritual relationships with your other spiritual family that's different from your biological family. So there is that aspect of it. Another aspect is that when you understand yourself differently, you start living your life differently. And so you may engage in different ways of doing things, different practices, different sense of self. All of these are connected with the idea of being born again.
there's this concept of you will pay after death for your sins. Why should we be threatened with punishment? And that, you've got all these sins collected, or the balance, and that you go through a very bad process after death.
Well, yes, you need to understand yourself in the context of eternity. And, some religious traditions do not believe in reincarnation, but they do believe in continuity of existence. So in Christianity, for example, they say, okay, well, Jesus Christ will handle all your sins, so that's okay, that's done. But then you also have the idea, well, you have to settle your sins. So that's an inconsistency in the dogma. In the world of India, where everybody believes in reincarnation, then it is also said that when you leave your body, then you leave with your subtle body, like an angelic body, and then you take rebirth. And when you're in the womb, you will have visions about things that you did which are not sorted out. You have to make sure that you have settled your karmic debts, you see, because otherwise in your next birth, you will be drawn to people with whom you have an outstanding karmic debt. And in being drawn to them, you'll have interaction. And through that, circumstances will be there which take the form of some sort of hardship, difficulty, suffering, or whatever, which is a kind of payment. Sometimes you're paying for your sins through physical illnesses, sometimes through inadequate money, inadequate intelligence, inadequate relationships. Many, many things are there that are hardships, and these are all called settlement of karma, which is another way of saying payment for your sins.
Questions are coming up because there are lots of people who don't fully understand karma, as maybe some of us do.
You think of yourself as an eternal soul, and you come into a body, and through your body you do thoughts, words, and actions. And so your thoughts may be pure, ordinary, or impure. Your words may be pure, ordinary, or impure. Your actions may be pure, ordinary, or impure. And so for your pure actions, you get credit, and for your impure actions, you get debit. And so it's rather like a bank account. And if you have debit, then you have to pay. And if you have credit, then circumstances will be very favorable to you. If you're just ordinary, then you'll get ordinary circumstances. But the idea is that whatever you do, there is an equal and opposite result. And karma will have an immediate effect, a midterm effect, and a long-term effect. And so sometimes you may do something in one birth and you may experience the consequence of it 10 births later on. But you don't know because you can't remember your last birth and you don't know what your next birth is. So there's theory about the philosophy of karma. Then you want to understand yourself. So you take a look at what you call as your sanskaras. So sanskaras are your individual tendencies and traits. And karma is very much connected with sanskaras. So you look at yourself, your character. And for example, if you happen to be an addict and you happen to be recovering using a 12-step program, there will be some of the steps to do with a rigorous assessment of your character. And it's a very, very good thing to do. Because if you do a rigorous self-assessment and really be honest about yourself, then you begin to take control of how you live your life, and you start to decide what you're going to do, and you start to expect to be held accountable for your actions. And this is a very good way of sort of disciplining yourself to behave in a way that you expect to be held accountable. You would like to create pure karma. You would not like to do stupid things. And so you control yourself. And also when you're meditating, you're getting more spiritual power, which is neutralizing your negative tendencies and amplifying your positive tendencies. So this is a spiritual work, you see, that we all do.
On spiritual path, they discourage one from having material and financial goals. So is it not possible to have both? Or how do I balance them?
No, I think you have to again ask yourself this question, what do I want? And then you have to create a program for yourself where both of them are taken into account, and you take responsibility, because you can't blame so-called them. They will tell you something, you either agree with it or you don't agree with it. But if you just say, they said I can't do it, therefore I can't. No, why you put yourself in that situation?
We say the spiritual path is different, not necessarily the same as religions. However, many people would dispute that.
First thing is, your spiritual practice is private, personal, and nobody else's business, first of all. And if you give people the opportunity to make comments about you like that, and then you find it difficult, then I think you should stop giving them the opportunity to give you trouble. It's in your hands. Main thing is don't put yourself in a position where other people feel comfortable making comments about you and putting you down and blah, blah, blah. Why do you do that to yourself? Where is your self-respect? Your spiritual practice is nobody else's business. You have to command their respect. And you command their respect by respecting yourself.
I don't understand the distinction between oneness and duality. Please guide me.
You need to do some study, and it takes time to understand all these things properly, because there are many, many ideas out there, and everybody wants you to believe their ideas, and you have to decide what is the right thing, and you consult your conscience. You need to look inside yourself and ask yourself what you think God is for you. And talk to him and say, okay, God, this is me. I can't deal with what all these other people are talking about now. Let me know. And be demanding, because he responds to that.
If God has a plan for us, how can we have free will?
Well, you have to deal with the whole matter of faulty logic, which is a big subject that I take up a lot. And that's all to do with if then, if then, if then. So on what basis do you think that God has a plan for you? There's no foundation for that. So you start off your logic with a faulty premise, which means you cannot arrive at a truthful or worthwhile conclusion. So first of all, you have to understand that God, you cannot say, okay, God has a plan for us. God doesn't have a plan for us. God knows our destiny. That's different from having a plan for us. God knows the way of the world. He will tell it to us if we want to know. If you want to know from other people, all sorts of people say all sorts of things about God, which he says nothing to do with me. That's their own ideas. So again, you have to do a triage and go deep inside yourself and create some kind of a relationship between you and God that doesn't involve anyone in between telling you their own nonsense or imaginary stuff. Then you will have real questions, because there are many things that you do want to know, but you need to identify what do you really want to know. And then you have to look around and see what different people say about it that you come across. And if you want to hear directly from God, then you have to talk to him about it.
How can I discern the presence of God in my life? Is he really with me?
God is a reciprocal type of person, and God is not a human being. So if you give attention to God, think about God, be loving in your thoughts to God, be interested in God, he will respond to that and you will experience it. But he doesn't just come in your life just because you're sitting there waiting like, somebody's waiting for it to rain on them. No. If you want something, you have to go get it. So if you want to have the presence of God in your life, then you have to do what is required to attract God. And so how do you attract God? You attract God by loving him. And then you say, well, how can I love God? We have to think about it. And you have to go deep inside and find out, as I keep on saying, what is your thought about God? What is your relationship with God? And you must do some work to develop it and find him, because you're looking for him, right? And he's difficult to find. But if you have in your heart a lot of love, he'll come to you.
Are demons, fallen angels real? The word, the fallen angels in inverted commas. If so, what actually are they? And how do we better protect ourselves from their deceptive influence on our spiritual walk? Also, what is the accurate interpretation of hell? What is it really?
When a person is violent, selfish, narcissistic, sociopathic, this is your demons, because they do very, very serious damage to other people. So there are people like that, and these are your demons. I mean, there is a question of evil spirits and stuff like that, but you don't really have to deal with that. You have to deal with your own self, and you want to keep your mind and your words and your actions clean. Act according to your conscience. Do not go against your conscience. And if you start living in this kind of way, you're going to keep yourself attracting very pure energies. You will attract the presence of God. You will not attract that other stuff. And definitely don't get involved in superstitions and funny behaviors that are designed to make contact with stuff like that.
Now, if Denise can take us to the final meditation, and we look forward to welcoming you next week.
Thank you. Om Shanti. This is a greeting of peace, and it is an affirmation that no matter what is going on, behind it, I am the soul at peace. And so take a moment to just step back from the craziness of life, the drama that surrounds us, all the dramas, and say, okay, so be it. Let it be. And I am a pure, peaceful, powerful, loving being of light. And I am eternal and immortal. I am with the Supreme Being. I am with God. God is with me. And I have love for all. I can handle whatever's going on. It's okay the way it is, as I see it as a big, big drama, multi-dimensional drama with lots of chaos. But that's on the outside of me. And when I'm just with me, the self, I am at peace with it all. I'm at peace with myself. I'm at peace with God. Just allow the self to be really okay, at peace. Accept what there is and keep moving forward. Life goes on no matter what. Om Shanti.
Om Shanti. Take these beautiful vibrations with you. Lots and lots of love, everyone. Denise, Lots of love and hugs to you, and we look forward to welcoming you next week. Take care. Om Shanti.